What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another video from Pink Tourmaline. And today we are finishing Howdie Mickoski's book, Empty the Cave. This is part 2. Cannot wait to get into this. There's so many nuggets, so many great pieces of wisdom in this book. So again, once I've taken a lot of excerpts, we're going to read them, we're going to talk about them, we're going to try and extract every nugget possible. And just a quick caveat, there's still some concepts that I'm trying my best to work through, trying to get my head around them. I'm not sure. I don't think I fully have yet. Maybe some better than others. We'll see. But I'm going to do my best to try and explain my understanding of them thus far. And hopefully we'll get Howdie on the channel very soon and we can talk about this stuff in depth. I very much look forward to that. Without further ado, let's get into the mix. First and foremost, now this first excerpt, actually, the reason why I extracted it specifically is because I think it might pertain to me, not in a good way, but want to acknowledge it. Negativity is not allowed, question mark. Okay. One of the ego's attempts to control the experience is via an action that has been labeled spiritual bypassing. This is the ego attempting to hide from any pains or traumas that are still unresolved within by creating a demand that everyone around them only speak or think positively. What they call negativity is not allowed, but what they really mean is that they don't want to have to discuss anything that might link to their own inner traumas and pains. The misguided belief is that if they can control the external, they think that they are controlling their internal. It is a form of denial and very common in spiritual circles, whether any type of realization has happened. They attempt to push the actual experience of this reality away, which really just pushes away their own inner pain. This is very common in normal spiritual circles just after a realization of emptiness, as more wants to come up to be seen and create a deep healing. If one is not open for this work, they will sink even deeper into the bypassing. Yeah, so the reason why I think this pertains to me is I feel that especially over the last 10 years, I've built a life, including in my business included, with clients that are awesome, with people around me that are awesome, removed people from my life that I felt were sources of negativity. And it's made my life very, very pleasant. It's a very purposefully driven life, in that, if that makes sense, where I've designed my universe as I want it. And I mean, I think there is something to removing yourself from people that are constantly complaining or being negative, because it does bring you down. But then this has got me thinking, maybe I've taken it to an extreme to some extent. It's just making me reevaluate. Now, when he talks about doing the inner work, that is something that I'm working on actively with a therapist, of course, of addressing those inner traumas that I have, that we all have for sure. And maybe those are things that I'm trying to avoid when I push away a lot of negativity. And yeah, it's just something that this passage just stuck out to me and I wanted to share it. Maybe you too struggle with this, or this is something that maybe you think, hey, it's great how you've pushed away a lot of negativity, but maybe we need to rethink that. I don't know. Again, it's probably a matter of threshold. It's probably a matter of degree in terms of how much you should push away, how much you should welcome in and acknowledge and deal with. So just food for thought. Okay, let's move it along. Next, getting drunk on emptiness. This is very interesting. Okay, this idea of emptiness, this idea of, as I've come to understand it, acknowledging that the matrix is the matrix, that we don't have to get too invested in it. An aspect of self-realization. Who are you really? Are you this avatar? Are you this human? Are you the consciousness behind just playing a character? But yet, as important as emptiness is, he says, you got to be careful not to get drunk on emptiness. Another possible place to get stuck is what is called being drunk on emptiness. And this, a person will present that since the world is not real, it doesn't really matter what might occur, that people are getting tortured, children are being abused, animals are being mistreated, or that you have traumas. They will say, it's all just thoughts in our mind, drink some tea. In this way, emptiness is being used as a buffer from past traumas by pretending that there is no experience of suffering in the material realm. Granted, a real experience of no self, emptiness does begin to create a natural detachment from standard reality. However, so too comes an incredible empathy for every creature in it. You can never have real detachment without equal empathy. And having empathy for others is to meet them in a state where they currently are, to converse with the person, animal, tree, or whatnot, as the very object that appears, as not as a superior being commenting how it's all an illusion. The drunk state ends as one may clearly see the illusion, but meets all they come across as two beings on a very long road. and looking for friendship instead of superiority. And this is an important point too, because if you think about it, as much as we want to say the matrix or the world is an illusion, that very well may be, but the souls in it are not. The souls are real. The entities here experiencing pain, joy, whatever the emotions that we are experiencing, that's real. So we are the only real thing here. So having empathy is an acknowledgement of that of the realism of each other. It makes perfect sense. So in that sense, it's not that we're connecting with the matrix. We're connecting with the one real part of the matrix, which is each other, as we should. Empathy, so important. Emptiness will feel empty initially. Since this world is what we have come to focus on since birth, emptiness will feel empty to the fictional self who has propped itself up as a real and important form. Something greater than the projections does exist, but it cannot be found or understood by which is in the material realm. It just lets one see through the projections. It does not negate that which is. That which is beyond and prior to the false realm of projections. This is an area many get confused about, so I wanted to present it here. There is something real. It is just not in the world of projections. This, I think, is definitely going to be difficult for me as well, as somebody that has worked super hard to build my business and to really identify as an educator and a teacher and a tutor for so long. Working with students in mathematics is something that I've enjoyed, something that I've tried so hard to perfect that craft. Even making videos and content on YouTube and teaching in that way is something that I identify with. And I think what he's saying here is, as we develop this idea of emptiness and we detach from some of these pieces of our lives that give us so much identity, I think it's going to feel empty. And I'm sure it will for me too, because I definitely have attached a lot of significance to those pieces, I guess, of my life. All right, moving along here. Realizing betweenness. Now, let me talk about this real quick, because this is one of the concepts I'm having a hard time with as well. I think I'm getting my head around it. But when he talks about betweenness and the importance of it, as an example, I believe what he's mentioned before is the realization of not going full on, hey, this is an illusion, I'm just going to do nothing and not have any obligations in the world, or being fully immersed in the illusion, saying I'm going to be so cutthroat in my life and just all focus on winning this game. It's saying, hey, we're kind of in the middle. We recognize in its illusion, but we're still going to partake to the extent we need to, but we also recognize that we need to be thinking at a higher dimension and whatnot. I think this is the general idea. It's acknowledgement, it's recognition, but not having the pendulum swing too far in either direction. That's what I think that's my understanding of this concept of betweenness, of being centered right now. Anyways, but without further ado, let's read this paragraph now. Realizing betweenness. We'll chat a little bit more after. This is the time to stop. I've mentioned that there is a time when all our outer seeking has to end for the final answer to reveal itself. The end of seeking will eventually come with the end of the seeker, but the seeker does not end itself. It must exhaust itself, like a candle burns itself out. I feel like I'm that seeker right now. The stopping is not an action, but occurs out of exhausting every possible avenue for an answer. The stop occurs on its own. It's all about timing. If the timing is correct, this is the betweenness, where action and non-action come together at the same moment to overload the normal mental egoic capacity. Contemplation does not stop here, just all outer and inner searching. The contemplation of these two dual extremes takes place because there is nothing else to be done. We don't have to do it, you might say. It gets done to us because we have exhausted the thing trying to do it all my way. In this sense, the way betweenness is mentioned, and this, I'm still not sure I'm totally getting it, but you exhaust, inner and outer. I'm more focused on the outer right now, but I'm definitely trying to do the inner as well. We'll be doing it more so in a month when I go on my retreat. But then you get to this point of exhaustion, and then now you're sort of in this betweenness phase of, okay, I'm no longer full on pursuing, you're now in the middle and you're contemplating. You're sort of the searching has stopped, and I suppose that was one extreme. The other extreme would just be to do nothing, sit idle, but you're in the middle. You're balancing in the middle with contemplation, I guess, of those two extremes. I guess, or is he talking about contemplation of the inner and outer searching? See, I'm not totally sure. Anyways, though, I know he is saying that this idea of coming to the state of betweenness is very important, and it just feels like a balance point is what he's describing. But I'm not sure if I fully understood this here. It's just it's a lot. It's a lot. It's not, but it's good. It's good. It's rich. It's something that we need to keep diving in and thinking about more and having conversations about. Emptiness is key to exiting. I think you probably picked up on that right at this point, that Howdie is telling us, hey, emptiness is the key to exiting the matrix. One of those points is that emptiness is a key step on the ladder to exiting the matrix. Emptiness reveals that all we believed we were is but a projection, and that something greater is behind it all, which is shown to be the only thing real the entire time. That begins to cause a shift to rooting in this awareness, thus giving less attention to the external matrix, including the body mind. That does not mean that the material realm or our form is ignored. Again, what we do what is needed to do, but no more than that, and all excess is let go of. So we're still here, we're still playing the game, but we don't go too far with the game. And that's the idea of emptiness, or the idea of betweenness with emptiness. I guess you could say emptiness would be going all the way. Hey, I'm just going to sit around and meditate and do nothing and just whatever. Whereas here, we recognize the emptiness, but then we kind of oscillate back to this middle position, I think. What is enlightenment? This is a cool one, because it talks about this idea. I think the way that a lot of people consider what they think true enlightenment is and what it will bring, but he doesn't. He has a unique perspective. That's one of the biggest lies put forth on the modern world, has been an idea around enlightenment. Mariana Kaplan put it brilliantly in her book, Halfway Up the Mountain. The most common, widely held fantasy about enlightenment is that it is freedom from suffering, the transcendence of pain and struggle, the land of milk and honey, a state of perpetual love, bliss, and peace, basically heaven on earth, right, is what they're saying. Enlightenment represents the collectively shared dream of an idealized and perfect world of pure beauty and joy. It is not only a new age fantasy, it is the secret wish of all people. It is our shared dream of salvation, but it is only a fantasy. Richard Rose had a very different presentation of what enlightenment is. One that seems vague on one hand, yet is clear that it is not about some sort of happiness or bliss, but a type of betweenness, and described as the tension between being and not being. And the experience of nothingness and everythingness simultaneously. So again, in his, I think the way he's putting it is enlightenment is, once again, emptiness, betweenness. These concepts keep coming back. But it's interesting to point out this other false notion, potentially false notion of enlightenment, because I do feel that could be a misdirection. Because is heaven on earth really, is that real? Is that possible? Is that something we should, is that part of the trap of us keeping, being heavily invested in what's happening here, being too invested into the matrix, or thinking we can fix the world, as how he puts it. And that's part of the trap, that we keep thinking we're trying to fix something that's unfixable. And again, as I've mentioned, it's not even about the politics or the people, or if we remove that person, we can fix it, or get rid of this individual there, that things would be so much better. It's not even about that. It's just the nature of the way the system is set up, the way our bodies are designed, the way nature takes course on this planet, in this environment. Is it really an environment that is set up for a true utopia or paradise or heaven on earth? I would argue no at this point. But I may be proven wrong, and maybe there's things that are manipulated in the physical but that's my feeling right now, that is a bit of a fantasy. Howdie has a whole section on new age spirituality. I only took out 2 excerpts, but he goes into a lot of, he goes into depth about the problems and the issues and the deception within the new age movement. Something that I was very familiar with, that I kind of got into without even knowing that it was called new age, just in my journeys of NDEs. And as I mentioned, that place called Mystic Manor, that I had attended a bunch of their events at one point. That's in my neighborhood. But anyways, religion makes its promise that you get out of suffering by believing in their savior, and the reward is eternal happiness after you die. The New Age repackaged that to say, forget about after you die. You can have happiness in heaven right now, all the time. The New Age is promising perfection, utopia, endless bliss, endless orgasms, all wrapped in a veneer of saving the planet, the dolphins, and the unknowing masses. The New Age is a drug. I was hooked on it for, hey, he was too. Okay. On it myself 30 years ago. Luckily, I got off it rather quickly, but it still took years to sort through various foundational beliefs that get into us from being around the ideas. Sure. Now he talks about saviors, right? We have the old school religions and the typical saviors. What are New Age saviors? Another promise of the New Age is providing people some sort of a savior. Once one rejects the Jesus story, where else can they go? The New Age comes with wonderful replacements like beings of light, the Galactic Federation. True. The karmic, actually, Galactic Federation, that's something that Elizabeth April talks about. Karmic gods, helpful aliens, or spirit guides. Yeah, for sure. The astral realm is full of helpers, is their presentation, but few want to see that the astral realm is mostly filled with demonic archons masquerading as helpful entities. People are taught to take whatever they meet in the astral at face value, so it is no surprise that they tend to get faced. And again, I talked about this with Darius. You might, right? He even asked me, well, if you're going to look at that and think everything is deception, you have nowhere to turn. You're going to be all alone. And my response to that was, when we were talking, I said, but you're not alone, because you have yourself. You can go inward. You can trust yourself. And I think he did actually acknowledge that that you can trust yourself and you can look inward. But obviously we didn't come to an agreement per se in that discussion. But I think this is exactly what Howdie is saying too. You're not, I mean, yes, you don't trust necessarily what you see. There is a lot of deception out there, but you got yourself. You got the divine spark within you. That's huge. That's all you need. More than enough is what I think Howdie would say. The dangers of channeling. Interesting excerpt here. And this is an important paragraph because, again, if you're somebody like me that was really relying on all these NDEs and even different accounts of individuals having astral projections, I mean, these are all things that we have to bear in mind. These are murky, murky, murky waters, I believe. And so understanding this aspect of channeling or of connecting with entities, I think, needs to be understood so we can proceed with caution and try and cut to the truth. These archons pretend to be whoever the channeler wants them to be. If they want to talk to Jesus, Buddha, or a dead relative, then that is the mask the archons put on themselves. There's only one savior that you ever need, and that is yourself, right? What I was just talking about. That is yourself. Love that. All the rest is in one way or another just an outward distraction. When real help comes, it does not come from an outside source connected to the matrix. It comes from within. There it is. Doctors, acupuncturists, herbalists, and the like are helpful for getting the body in a more stable state energetically. But then we have to take the energy they have helped us accumulate with some base healing to go within and see what is at the core of the issue and find the link to what we are to let us know what we really must do to complete our healing. As I mentioned, the best healers I came across taught me how to take my stored energy and go within to seek my own transformative power. This message resonates with me so much for a weird reason. And the reason is because if you look around at everything else in the world, like so much of what's going on in the world, whether we're talking about religion, government institutions, whatever, so much of it is about the opposite message, about looking up to this person or this company or that government organization or this savior to help you, to reach down and grab you, give you a helping hand, because you need that helping hand, right? And so when you think that that's the message, and we feel that we're in clown world, that we're getting all these deceptive messages to control us, to stifle us, to hurt us, to harm us, to keep us down, and we're in a world where everything feels like it's against us, and then that is also the message that is pushed by the majority of the world. This goes exactly opposite of that. Like, something rings true about that. You know what I'm saying? At least to me. No, wait a minute. Look within. You got the power. It feels right. What is love really? And he's not talking about love songs. He's not talking about lust and all the stuff that all pop culture is obsessed with. Different. And I think this is important. There's a love, of course, but that is outside of the matrix. What we call love here for either a spouse, child, dog, hot man. My dog is a legend, but okay. Or hobby, all links to the program designed to get us to function in specified ways. And there's nothing wrong with this feeling. Okay. The problem is to turn it into something special, something beyond a computer program and apply overloaded importance to it. One then chases it, and demands that others act in specific ways to keep triggering this inner chemical reaction. When one sees through that, it becomes a feeling that can either be there or not, come and go. And thus, one takes a key first step to release from a big claim in the prison material matrix. I have to sit with that for a second. And it's funny too, because again, you see the entire world, all movies. And I know obviously there's individuals writing songs, there's individuals that are making movies. It's not a one entity that's releasing all this stuff and saying, hey, we just want love, love, love to be promoted. But it seems to have gotten into the zeitgeist of pop culture, and so many and obviously love is very, it's a drug, literally. And so it's very gripping. It's a lot of people want to see movies or hear songs about it. But this idea that then it's just a necessity and it must come in this certain way, this beautiful fairy tale way, and then we keep seeking it, and then it doesn't go that way, and then we seek it again, and then or we get mad, and like you can see that it's very much can be used. And I'm not saying you have to go without it or say, hey, like, yeah, I don't think he's saying that either, but you can very well see how it can be a force of manipulation and a force of control. We're kind of the ones controlling ourselves in that way, right? Because we keep seeking it and we kind of stay looped into that cycle. Anyways, very interesting point. This is a question that I've had, and he answers it, or again, I think Howdie would himself say he doesn't have all the answers, but I wanted to highlight this because this is a question that I had for the remote viewers. This is a question that I have in general. How does it all work, right? We can understand our souls as humans a little bit better. We have thoughts, we can contemplate, we can reason. But then is literally a soul spread to every entity, to bacteria, to viruses, or is some biological entities purely just biological mechanisms? I don't know the answer. I really want to have to believe that, for example, my dog has a soul, like the connection that we have, but I don't know. I don't know. Anyway, so it's a fascinating thing. And also the question of animals and other entities, can they escape the matrix? Is it harder, or is it actually easier in some ways? Okay, he talks about all this. To finish this opening set of information, I want to have a short discussion around the idea of souls. I fully assert that not just humans have souls, but all living creatures have a soul. He says, all living creatures. A soul is not the same as a divine spark. A soul is an energy source that causes what would be inanimate, dead, to be living. The divine spark can be a part of any of these souls, connected with any creature, not just humans. The soul can be seen as a piece of matrix energy combined with a life force. If that life force is a divine spark, there's the possibility of philosophical depth. If the life force is a matrix mirror, we get what I called the automatic human in chapter 2, basically NPCs. That's still hard for me to wrap my head around, that some of us have a divine spark, or some entities do and some don't. How does that work? I don't know. But this could be the case. I'm just saying I'm having a hard time wrapping my hand around. Now coming to the idea of animals being able to escape. Many claim that animals cannot leave the matrix. I disagree fully. I concur that anything that is in the matrix can leave it, be they people, animals, rocks, trees, or even staplers. Those who are connected with the divine spark have, let's say, a more possible direct route, but any creature can turn its awareness within and connect to the pleroma. Doing so, they are 75% of the way out. Animals have an advantage in that they do not have a parasitic ego structure as humans do, so they do not have to spend years overcoming this implant of self-importance. On the negative, they tend not to have natural philosophic outlook. But I've thought about this too, right? I think about my dog, for example. Forget about not having an ego, but even that's there. But even think about this idea. We come back to the law of resonance, or phronesis, and the idea of discernment. My dog is not deceptive. My dog's not trying to manipulate. He's just a little angel child. He's just doing, in my opinion, the right thing. He's just does the right thing every day, in my opinion. Yeah, maybe he's not always doing everything that the way that I want him to do. Actually, he mostly does, to be honest. He is actually an angel. But in certain cases, let's say somebody might look and say, oh, he shouldn't be behaving that way or something, right? He's barking too much, whatever. right? But he's not doing anything. He's not trying to manipulate and lie and do these things that are throwing off his resonance, like the things that the rest of us do. So he's living a pure life, and I'm tending to believe that that pure life is going to give him that ability once he exits to have pure discernment. He's going to zip right through. I mean, that's what I would think. Again, just a theory. I have no idea, but that's what I would think. We don't need to be saved. We keep coming back to this idea, and I think it's very important. One can liberate their divine spark from the matrix if it occurs from a combination of complete self-realization, I think, which ties into the idea of emptiness, along with a detailed examination of the simulation and how it is constructed and kept running. Both of those completed chores, I feel, will create the exit portal instantaneously. But I do not see this as a being chosen, nor the need for an external savior to do something for us. As long as you are still a something that needs to be saved, then you are also something that can be tricked or trapped. No thing cannot be trapped or need to be saved. It just needs to be brought out of its coma. Going back to this idea of emptiness, nothingness, nothing, detachment, or true self-realization. You are not this avatar. Oneness. Are we all really one? Howdie addresses that. So when a spiritual teacher proclaims we're all one or everything is one, what they are really saying is they are linking everything material and its original creator with that which is spiritual. But that is an error. So he's saying, no, we are not one. As soon as you link anything to the material realm, you are discussing the matrix and its fallen creator. Yes, all objects and experiences are one, based on having the same matrix source code from the mind of Lucifer Demiurge. So in the matrix, in that sense, we're talking about our matrix avatar. We are all one because we're all part of the matrix, which is one kind of system. But none of them link to the pleroma, which has nothing to do with the matrix. It is something completely different. And that understanding is what has become distorted and even lost in the modern world. So what he's saying is, if you think this idea of oneness, yes, the matrix is all one. So within here, we could say that we're all one because we're all kind of connected through the matrix. But exiting, what I believe he's saying is our divine spark is unique. There's no merging. We retain our individual identity and our essence as we exit out. So in that sense, we are individuals and we are not one, as it were. This is big right here. This is big. This is a statement talking about those of us maybe who are coming to this awakening, coming to these realizations. And by the way, this resonates with me too, because I am not a confrontational person, but I love to teach and I love to share. That's why this channel is not about debating people or arguing against people per se. Yeah, I'm going to be examining people. I'm going to be reviewing things, but I'm using that as a platform to just go out there and inform and to teach and to share my thoughts. And people are welcome to agree and disagree, and hopefully we can all learn together. And that is my preferred way of disseminating information, not going out there and like having a debate with somebody. Anyways, tying back into this idea, and why I like this idea, because it conforms with the way that I like to present information. He's saying, hey, we may be having these realizations, but we don't need to battle. We don't need to go out there and fight people and convince them. And I like that. It resonates with me anyways. We don't need to get into battles with people for no reason. On the other hand, we don't lie either. We don't believe one thing and pretend we believe the opposite. We just learn how to present the understanding. That's, again, law of resonance, phronesis, right? We need to be authentic. But doesn't mean we have to go out and fight people and be like, no, you're wrong and this is crazy. But just be authentic, but also refrain from engaging in these battles. We just learn how to present the understandings we have in a way that feel true within, yet not bashing against anything without. We don't need to convince anyone of anything. I love that. But we don't have to agree with others either. It's fine to just say I disagree with that and move on to some other subject. Choosing sanity in any moment is always a good option. That does not mean you have to fight insanity. Just choose not to associate with it and choose to stay clear to ourselves within. This is the message for just about anyone who has figured a few things out about reality and gone through a few inner transformations. Yeah. Pretty much great advice for anybody on this channel, I imagine. Controlled folly. Now we get into another concept, very important. Folly, which I didn't include this paragraph, is this idea of recognizing, again, that everything, that we are in a matrix. We are in a mirage of sorts, not real. And this idea of controlled folly is you recognize that, but you're still you're still participating in the matrix. You're still doing what needs to be done. One does not implement controlled folly to be an actor or to help out the cosmic director. One implements controlled folly to give the outwardly impression that they believe in realness of reality the same as everyone else, all the while residing in the emptiness that is behind it all. I feel like that reminds me of betweenness again. This may seem like denial or even a trick we are playing with ourselves, but it is none of these. We are both accepting the false world and at the same time not accepting it. Within the stage play called Life on Earth, various chores need to get done, so we assure that they do. The end result is that the wood gets chopped, the water gets carried, but never any longer do we think that we chopped it or we carried it or even that it was important to do. Just simply the tasks were called for to be done. So there it is, the controlled folly. And I think part of that is also not getting too invested in the task at hand, or not, which again is going to be hard for us. It's going to be hard for me, right? After living my life, attaching importance to tasks or the, I guess, accolades or success that you can accrue from performing these tasks at a high level, right? Letting go of that, I think, is going to be tough. Desire is the enemy to awakening. This is big, okay? Because one of the things that people talk about is fear. Fear being a major enemy. Fear being the ultimate problem that we have to avoid. But Howdie talks about desire, and I gotta say, this kind of hits. One of the key elements of the exchange is to present that desire is an enemy to awakening. The spiritual community puts its focus on fear as the bad guy, not desire. That is because the modern spiritual marketplace is set up to provide ways for people to get their deepest desires fulfilled. They sell enlightenment or a new car as the same things in the marketplace. It is all about getting more things for you so that you can reach your potential, improve, fix some problems, and become a powerful, important, or just elevated from others. Desire, though, it resonates, right? And again, as he's saying, it doesn't have to just be material desires. It could be desires for this enlightenment, for maybe some sort of heaven on earth or something like that. Something to think about. Stay clear and grounded. The more we continue on our pathway of intent, the more we become like Saint Anthony, resisting all threats and temptations thrown at us. We stay clear and grounded. We become masters of rejection, choosing instead silence, empathy, integrity, sanity, and detachment. The silence is not a silence of being somewhere with no outer sound. It means to have found the still point of what we are within. So he's saying, like, don't run off into the woods and avoid society, but just find your own inner stillness. The empty, still center of being. The detachment is not giving up objects or experiences, but to see the material realm is not the spiritual one. We gain a power to reject all attempts to manipulate and deceive us away from our ultimate intention. We see these attempts all for what they are, distractions against our ultimate aim. Our energy is for the divine spark, and thus she shares her power with us. We operate as her vehicle in the material. Become the fire. Howdie puts a lot of importance on the symbology of fire, and fire being not water, but fire. Anyways, he says here, become the fire. But if reality can be eventually seen from the eyes of emptiness, now what? What can trap emptiness or no thing? The celestial fire is greater than anything in the matrix. But as long as the deception of individual mind in reality is in place, the spark stays in a coma. And we keep our focus and perception on a world of actions we have been conditioned to believe is important. Become the fire. The power of the pleroma and the message of Christ, Buddha, Krishna, and all the other teachers are no longer messages. They become words from ourself to ourself, and thus become the building blocks to our own personal pathway home. As you guys like to know, or as you guys know, I like to, this is a word salad, sorry. I like to always end videos on a positive message. This is right from like the second to last paragraph of the book. And I mean, how perfect of a message to end on than that one. So there we go, guys. Empty the Cave, part 2. It is complete. Lots of great information, lots of nuggets. Let me know your thoughts. What do you guys think of this book? What did you think of the breakdown? Do you have questions that are lingering? Do you have answers to some of the questions that I posed? Give it all to me. And also put in the comments, okay? If you made it to the end of this video, put in the comments, do you want to see Howdie Mickoski on this channel? Let's put some comments in here because we want to get him on here. And he has emailed me. He said after I read this book, I think I'm not going to say he said he would for sure, but he'll definitely consider it. So hopefully he can get on here. We can have an amazing and rich conversation. That's all I got for you guys. Thank you guys so much for joining. We'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.